and that way it continued on to make the pregnancy legitimate, okay, because they could do the wedding before she was showing, but after she's showing, it makes it very difficult.
But it
Go ahead.
might,
Not a problem, I got you.
but it might not have been the reason they were told to go to the barn.
No. The reason why they were in the manger is because there was no room in the house.
In the house, not
In-
because they weren't married or any
Nope.
of that stuff.
It was the fact that there was no room at the end.
No room at the end.
The only room that they had was in the manger.
Okay,
And they had to stop because Mary had to do and give birth. She couldn't travel anymore.
okay.
And that is why. As it says in the verse, how's it say? Then came the time for the baby to be born. Then came the time. So it doesn't say, her water broke. She knew it was time. Because women back in that day kind of knew. For however they did it.
Okay.
All right?
You remember the Christmas carol once in Royal David City, stood a lowly cattle shed or a manger? Yeah.
So that's kind of why I'm bringing this to our minds, is to kind of change our focus, because we have kind of gone past that in this society. We don't think about what that was like. And it's hard to understand in this day and age. But that's something I want you guys to kind of think of in that. Because they had no privacy. They had no blanket that you wrap your child in to be able to take home from the hospital. You didn't have, or they didn't have, any of those wonderful things that we have now. Because they were traveling. And they just didn't have it. Because it was probably at their home, and they probably were going to use it when they got there, but they didn't necessarily expect to have the child. Because who here knows when the exact date that they're giving birth? I mean, even to this day, doctors can't even tell you that, and we have a lot more sophisticated equipment.
Did they still have, well, the thing is, the 3 shepherds, the 3 kings, and all of that, is that just for the whole picture and not really how it happened?
Part of that, I will touch base on that on Christmas Eve.
Okay,
That's kind of why I said that I was breaking this up, because I understand the other part of this verse talks about people coming. And so that's why I want to bring up the fact that they had no privacy, their location. I want you all to kind of have that in your minds.
God wanted Jesus to be portrayed as a common man.
That's right. And
And all the men at that time were poor. And so they didn't have all the communities, they didn't have the clothing and stuff like we have now.
That's right.
Even some of the rich people back then. He wanted him to be born as a common man.
and he was born lower than a common man, if you think about it. Because at least a common man was born in a house.
And I do think Joseph, after the angel came to Joseph, that Joseph said, okay, I will marry her. And I think at that time, before they left, he married her. In quiet, quietly married her. So that
I think so too, but we don't have that, there's no documentation to back that up.
Well, in some of the, in some of them, it says that they were espoused when they went to Bethlehem. So maybe it doesn't say it in Luke, but I think it says it in Matthew, that they were espoused when they went to Bethlehem.
And,
Well, they were engaged when Joseph found out that she was pregnant.
right, and we don't, there is no documentation as to when they got married there was no, and you gotta remember, records back then were very either word of mouth or they were in tablets. And tablets did not necessarily survive. I mean, we're still finding items to this day about different things. I mean, there's just an article the other day about how they found a grave of somebody in France who had a cross underneath where his mouth would have been, where he was buried. And they carbon dated it, and that was at least 50 to 100 years earlier than they originally thought Christianity was in that area. So we're still finding out information because we don't have the documentation. I mean, Dead Sea Scrolls were only found in the 1940s, which is relatively a short time away. And that's given us a lot of information to back up other things. But yeah, reality is we don't have records from back then because they didn't keep them, except for word of mouth or in scrolls at that time that decomposed. You know, you're talking, you know, at least almost 2,000, at least 2,000 years ago, if not longer, pretty much. And that's, I don't know about any of you, but keeping something 2,000 years old, that's kind of hard to do, you know. So just to kind of keep in mind, you know, yeah, I believe they were married, but I don't have any documentation to prove that. But that would make the most sense at this time in this time, especially when they're going to the census and to be taxed. They had to be married. You know, it was early. You know, you're figuring pregnancy takes what, 9-10 months. So you know, you're looking at that. You know, there's not a lot of time there, and weddings were a big thing, but it was more of a community. And if you're living in Nazareth, the party would have been there. They would have got married, and then they would have went to Bethlehem. And you're not talking a simple trip. You're talking a trip that they either were walking, or if Joseph was well enough off, had a donkey, or even a goat that Mary could ride on to go. Because they both had to show up in Bethlehem. And there's nothing to tell me how many day trip that was. You know, that was 200-mile trip that they had to do.
Well, she spent time with her,
Sister. Yeah.
while she was very first pregnant, so she was about 3 months along before they even started traveling.
That's right. You know, so you start looking at this, she was showing, she was doing stuff. So there's a lot of things that happened when she was pregnant. But, you know, you don't know when that's going to happen. And I'm sure they were hoping to be home before it happened. Although God knew. You know, God had told us. So that's where I'm going to end today. I will pick it up on Tuesday, excuse me. I'm double checking my dates in my head. And I will go on, because there's more I want to talk about, but at the same time I don't want to overload you. But I want you to kind of focus on Joseph, Mary, and Jesus in that little manger, just by themselves with the animals, trying to stay warm, and look at the temperature outside at night over the next couple nights, and just kind of think, would you want to be out there in that?
With spoil.
You know, just kind of picture that scene. I mean, I know Christmas time we kind of gloss over it, and move on and think of all the good things. But I want you to kind of actually think about the whole situation. You have the knowledge. You have the experience to realize what all that was about. And I'd like you to just kind of think about that. Alright? I'll let our singer sing, and then I'll close in prayer.
Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever.
Thank you.
Bow our heads in a word of prayer. Dear Lord, we thank you for the word today. We thank you for people actually thinking and asking questions and interacting with this, Lord. I thank you that they were able to understand what you wanted me to say, Lord. I ask that you bless each and every one of these people, Lord, not only for now, not only for Christmas, but as the New Year comes. I ask that you give them many blessings, Lord. I ask that you bless people who are not able to come. Keep them healthy, keep them safe, Lord. Give them the blessings. Lord, I ask for many people to show up on Christmas Eve as we indulge back into the celebration of your Son arriving on earth. And I ask that you just help us to remember what this season is all about, Lord. And this we ask in your name. Amen. And please enjoy the gifts. The candies, I do believe, are all sugar-free, because I wasn't sure, so I played it safe in that aspect. Alright. The bookmarks have the books of the Bible on them, so that way you guys kind of can use those.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
And not really for your candles.
That's very kind of you.
Well, you guys do a lot of kind of things for me, so it's only a matter of repaying it, so
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Got this back for one
And a pen to help you write notes. So,
Yeah, it's
you
very
know,
nice.
something small that I thought y'all could use, and
Thank you.
you're welcome. Enjoy. And I hope to see everybody on Christmas Eve.
We're not gonna be here.
Well, what time is the service?
6 o'clock at night.
Oh,
Yeah, 6
say
o'clock.
that about Christmas Eve again?
Christmas Eve, 6 o'clock.
We're gonna see you then.
Yeah, I'll be here for the
Right
service.
here.
Oh, I see. What time?
6 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
Why, would you like midnight?
It's a midnight service at 6 p.m.
Yeah, I knew there was something going on, I guess that's what it was.
Okay. Unless you want to do midnight service, then I can come at midnight.
Isn't that going to interfere with your Christmas Eve dinner and everything?
No, my wife is already game planning that she'll be cooking while I'm here, so when I get home, we'll have.
Oh, okay.
We don't mind eating late, because I'm off Christmas Eve and I'm off Christmas, so it's one of those things that works well for us. And the only means that I probably will not go to JPL's Christmas Eve service, because theirs is overlaps mine, but the priority is for me to be here, so that's where I'm doing. So, that's where.
Thank you for doing that, thank
You're very welcome, I'm glad to do that. So, yeah. Part of the reason why I was glad we talked about it earlier, that way everything could be arranged and locked in. So.
Can I make a suggestion? You know, we had a sing-along a couple of nights ago. One of the hymns was, one of the carols was, "There's Once in Royal David City." And you talked about the crash and all that stuff. And that's what it was all about. Through the lonely cattle shed with a major parade. Yeah, and it kind of tells the story that you just told. Maybe we should sing it.
We could, yeah, if you want to.
I'll bring the words. Well, no, sing it. I'll bring the words.
Because there's a lot of the older songs that actually dive into that. They don't really sing a lot of them nowadays.
No. Yeah, I'll get it.
We're gonna already put it in.
That's part of the reason why earlier I was playing a lot of older Christmas songs and.
Well, yeah, but the thing is that people just don't know the words.
No, I get it.
But the words of that particular one are very appropriate.
Yeah, it is. So.
Oh, no, more dog, more dog.
You're very welcome, enjoy.